there's a really important question that we really need to focus on. Are you willing to support policy or politics, politicians or positions? And that's something that's really coming up now because of the NSA leak. Let's take a look at what Chevy Chase had to say back when Barack Obama promised to close Gitmo, but then didn't.
I wonder if you have an opinion about Barack Obama saying he was going to close down Gitmo, but not closing it. What do you think about that?
You know, it's funny because what I like about Barack Obama is that he chooses his priorities as he learns more. So, you know, I mean, here's a guy who's really young, feeling his way along. I voted for him. I very much like him, but I do feel that he's a young man, and that therefore he has to, in a way, feel his way along. There might have been a president who's 67 like me, who already knew exactly how he felt. So I don't hold it against him at all.
So as the co-host of the Young Turks, I could say that back in 2008, we were very supportive of the Obama administration, or Obama running for president. We wanted him to get elected. And then when he did get elected, he decided to not follow through with anything he had in his platform, except for gay rights, kind of. So that was a little bit of a problem. He tried to pass health care reform, but of course, he didn't come out as aggressively as we would have liked. But when it came to civil liberties, he's just as bad, if not worse, than Bush. So we've been very, very critical of that. And we've gotten a lot of heat from our Democratic audience as a result of that, which shows us that a lot of people are supportive of their party, not necessarily policies. And I want to give you guys some facts to really back that up. So because of this NSA surveillance leak, there have been polls indicating that the majority of Americans are actually okay with it. But when you look at specific parties, you see this partisan shift. So back in 2006, when it came to NSA surveillance programs, Republicans, 75% of them said it was acceptable, 23% said unacceptable. When it came to Democrats, 37% said acceptable, 61% said unacceptable. Now fast forward to June of 2013 and those numbers shift. You see that Republicans say that it's unacceptable, 52% as opposed to 47%. And with Democrats, 64% think that it's acceptable. I mean, it's amazing. It's the same freaking issue. So why is there a shift? Why do you see that? And John, this question goes to you. I mean, do we really care about policy here, or is it about rooting for our team?
Yeah, well, look, so I will say historically, like back when I was working on my doctorate, this is one of the areas I thought, you know, this seems really interesting. I want to work on it. So I had to do a content analysis of previous studies, and it turns out there's almost nothing that's been studied more in political science. Mm-hmm. Like there's a long history of this being true. But I would say I don't think that it's necessarily entirely irrational to support a policy under one party rather than another. I mean, there is some influence of the person who's managing the policy. Like the same information could be used one way under a Republican administration and another under a Democratic administration. Your view of whether or not it should be permissible or not should be in part dependent upon who's doing it.
You really feel that the Obama administration would use this information differently than the Bush administration?
Yeah, almost certainly. I don't think that it should exist under either administration, but I think that almost certainly the sorts of people that Obama would put in positions of power over this information would be different under both, I think.
But Obama has been
better, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I think less likely to use it for subversive political
not to
reasons.
insult you. I think that that's actually very naive, especially when you consider the fact that Obama has been very supportive and has been in bed with many corporations. So when we really think about the information that's being collected, as we mentioned in previous points in the previous video, we're worried that this information can be used against people who want to be politically active. If Obama is getting funded by these corporations, wouldn't Obama be in favor of using this information to intimidate political activists?
I think that you can speculate, but I think that before you can say that that's true, you'd have to have some evidence for it. I think that it's very easy to say, look, we don't like what Obama's doing and he's a Democrat, we didn't like what Bush was doing, he's a Republican, so they're the same. But I think I think if anything, that's kind of naive.
But we do have evidence. We have the Occupy protesters. I mean, the Obama administration aggressively went after Twitter to get private information on these Occupy protesters, and that is a form of intimidation. So I don't think that the Obama administration would be any better than the Bush administration.
I think that you're totally valid to undercut what I was saying. Understand that I was to some extent playing devil's advocate in saying that it's not entirely, I said 100% irrational to care about who the politician is. But I think that the larger reason that you see this, not just in this issue, but in many issues, people frequently change their positions when a new president gets elected, or say that they support it because it's now my team as opposed to the other team. And the problem is that partially it's an artifact of the fact that we have a two-party political system. Like if Obama doesn't follow through on his platform, do I vote for McCain next time? No, probably not, because it's just that's farther away from my policy preferences. So I think that people are somewhat constrained by the American political system, I think.
I definitely agree with
that. But also
that.
really fast, and I'm sorry that I'm going on here.
Yeah,
when you say
filibuster the show, it's okay.
Okay, no problem. When you say, should I stop supporting a politician, supporting does not mean one thing. It means many things. Does it mean should I not vote for him next time? Should I not donate money to his campaign or the campaigns of Democrats? Should I not boost him when I'm talking to friends and say, oh, he's great?
Yeah.
Like all of these different things need to be managed.
So the support that I'm specifically referring to in this segment, for the sake of this conversation, is people who get butthurt if you criticize the Obama administration for carrying out policies that were very similar to the Bush administration. So people who don't want to hold Obama accountable, Dianne Feinstein, Barbara Boxer, all of these politicians and pundits that go on the media, and they basically make the argument that, oh, it's fine, they're not doing anything illegal here.
It's not just them. How about MSNBC, the entire channel, almost?
Exactly.
I mean, there are definitely some people there that I very much respect, but a lot of the pundits there do say the exact same thing. The problem with the Obama administration, I mean, I think there are obviously multiple problems here, but there does tend to be this kind of worship of a personality, and so Obama is worshipped, and even the way that he's, again, been portrayed in the media, and something that they've tried to do, when you go back to some of the New York Times reporting on the kill list, is that, he likes to, all of this weighs on his shoulders and weighs very heavily on him, and so he likes to make the decision himself as to whether or not someone is going to be executed, and so you kind of, it's this false sense of, well, he's a moral good guy, and so I think it's okay if he carries it out. Which that's problematic because it's setting a very dangerous precedent, because what happens when these powers are in someone else's hands, and what the Obama administration has tried to do is they have continued many of the Bush policies, but they've expanded many of the Bush policies, and they've codified them, right? They've turned them into law. And so if you listen to Obama's very weak, and I think very weak defense because he knows that it's indefensible when it comes to the NSA surveillance, it's that, well, don't worry, all of this is looked at through the FISA courts, and it's approved by law, and so you look at the recent extensions to the Patriot Act. Well, guess what? The FISA courts have approved all but 11 out of like 34,000 requests, of this sort in the 30-some years that FISA court has been around. But so it's, if Obama gives you the perception that now it's legal, then people think that it's okay. But we know that there is rampant abuse. We see this constantly. We see that everyone lies about it, just like Clapper, the director of national intelligence. Everyone's now playing that soundbite of when Ron Wyden called him out and said, "Do you spy on Americans?" He said no in congressional testimony. Now he's walking it back. I don't even remember what his defense was there.
He didn't even say no. He did this. He's like, well, no.
And now he's saying it's the least untruthful.
No, come
or
on.
The least untruthful thing he could have said.
Yeah.
I don't. I just find it really pathetic and scary that people are so okay with these policies when it's the Obama administration that's doing it. And I'm incredibly disappointed with this president. I voted for him the first time around, and I couldn't bring myself to do that again this last election because of how much he's walked back on all of this. And you look at some of these videos of Senator Obama, the one that was campaigning to be president, and what he's been saying versus what he says now, and it's just a complete flip-flop. And it's scary, but I think you hit on something in the sense that, only having two choices is that's not a good option for the American people. We need more choices.
We definitely do need a third-party option. And it's really difficult because, so far the libertarian movement has gained a little bit of momentum, but just based on how they did in the last election, it's hard to believe that we would ever have a third-party system, but I would love it. Sarah, I want to bring you into the conversation. How did you feel when Bush was doing this type of surveillance versus how you feel now? Do you see a shift?
Oh, I thought it was awful, but I'm a big fan of Barry O, so I think it's fine. You notice that I have been glamored by him, and I think a lot of people have. I think I again represent the sort of folks who are blindly obedient, and I think that's really dangerous. This is making me investigate myself personally, so thank you. But I think that politics is the sport that unites us all. Jocks and nerds can both get into politics. And there is this feeling, and you spoke about that sort of team mentality that, oh, my team is winning, I'm on my team's side. It trumps rationale, it trumps logic, that emotional connection to winning and being in charge and being on top. For a lot of very intelligent people, myself included, oftentimes trumps reason. And the Obama administration is incredible at manipulating emotions. They are amazing at it. They're wonderful. The campaign was great at it. The administration's great at it.
You know, and I think that this is also an example of, you know, psychology and political science teaming up. Because if you ask me, and this is my pop psychology, I don't know if this is real, but I would make the hypothesis that, you know, you support and you campaign for a particular politician and you want to believe in him. And then when he proves you wrong, you want to find a way to rationalize the reasoning. Like, what is the reasoning for it? Why did you decide to support that person? And you come up with, like, you know, excuses in your own head.
You emotionally invested in him,
Exactly.
and you put yourself out there, and you argued with your, you know, racist cousin at Thanksgiving dinner about it. So now you must be right about everything.
Right.
And so must Obama.
No one wants to admit that they're wrong.
Disappointing. It's very disappointing. But the other thing is, you know, sure, there's such a thing as a team mentality, and I think that there's a lot that you can look to, a lot of policies when it comes to the economy, right? When it comes to certain social policies, where you can focus more on the team. You can focus more on what Democratic Party priorities are, and if they want to raise taxes and what programs they're okay with cutting. If we're going to go ahead and say that deficit reduction is for some reason a priority in this country, and that we should follow, you know, a path of austerity, or when it comes to women's rights. I mean, immigration reform. There are a lot of policies out there where it takes the entire party uniting. But specifically in this area, why I think it's so scary and so damaging, what President Obama's done is because foreign policy, counterterrorism, this is the one area where the executive branch pretty much does get to act separately from Congress, right? There isn't a whole lot of oversight there, and we know that this administration has done that even more, that they've created this entire secretive little bubble and circle within the White House where they get to do whatever they want. And so this is all him. Obama can't blame this on anybody else. This is this man totally flip-flopping on what he said.